Okay, so does a general election affect house prices? Well, what do you think? Yes? No? Maybe? So let's dive into this and look into this a wee bit more. The recent announcement by the British Prime Minister regarding the next general election set to take place on in the 4th of July has inevitably stirred discussions about its potential impact on the property market in Fife in particular. Historically, general elections are periods of heightened uncertainty, often leading to speculation about their effects on house prices and transactional levels. However, examining past trends reveals a relatively stable market with only minor fluctuations in transaction volumes. So, are house prices to remain steady then? Well, data from previous election cycles indicates that UK house prices, as measured by the Land Registry figures, have shown their resilience in the face of the last five general elections. In fact, the trend has generally been one of stability or even growth. However, the Land Registry data, by its very definition, is 6 months out of date, and as these measures sales that were agreed upon 6 months previous to that. However, new data from Denton House Limited shows that the measure per pounds per square foot of the house sold in specific months matches the land registry rate for 5 or 6 months later, with a I would say a 90% plus correlation. So a strong correlation, a strong relationship between the price per square foot right now and the land registry data at 6 months previous to that. So this means that we can actually accurately measure the effects of the general election both prior, during, and after ascertaining its impact on the property market to house prices. So the statistics for pound per square foot for January 2019 to December 2020, covering a year on either side in the last general election. So some interesting information on the current graph right here. So during the autumn and the winter of 2019, which is round about here, there we go, where that happened. The average pound per square foot figure drifted downwards from £275 per square foot to 275 pound per square foot to £270 per square foot, meaning house prices were actually dropping because of that. However, looking at this graph, you'll see that the post-election house prices went up even before the pandemic hit. So there, you can see that it came down and then it started to go up again, and that was well before the pandemic hit. And then obviously the pandemic rocketed it, skyrocketed it right out the stratosphere at this point in time. A correction it was coming anyway, to be honest. This wasn't anything to do with the pandemic. This was a correction in house prices, which was strongly overdue over since the credit crunch itself, because prices had been historically suppressed, while salaries and wage rises had surpassed the price rises overall and even surpassed inflation itself. So this pattern suggests that the Fife property market is robust enough to withstand the uncertainty typically associated with general elections itself. But is there a temporary dip in the property transactions, and why is that before the elections? Well, let's dive into that a bit more. While house prices actually remain stable, the number of property transactions, i.e., the number of homes actually selling, usually experiences a temporary dip in the weeks leading up to the general election itself. This phenomenon is particularly and primarily driven by potential buyers adopting a wait and see policy and approach, delaying decisions until after the elections if results are clear. However, this could be the time to strike and grab a bargain because a surge is always follows the dip in transactions as pent-up demand is released once political landscapes stabilize. So as a buyer, maybe the time is to go right now for that reason. So let's look at the post-election catch-ups then. Well, post-election periods typically see a catch-up in the number of transactions. Postponed transactions due to the election-related uncertainties usually proceeded shortly after the election. Now, that primarily leads to a rebound in the property market overall. For example, if there was 218,000, for example, there were 218,000 property transactions, or house sales in the 3 months before the last 2019 general election, and 268,000 in the 3 months afterwards. The pattern has been consistent across multiple election cycles, indicating that while transactional volumes may fluctuate temporarily, the overall market equilibrium is actually maintained. So my final thoughts on this, just to wrap this up right now, in the conclusion that the general election's impact on the Fife property market is minimal regarding house prices overall, which have shown a tendency to remain steady and even increasing during election periods. The primary effect is the short-term dip that we're about to see, and the number of property transactions promptly rectified post-election. So, for the next couple of months, we're probably going to be a subdued property market in the number of buyers out there, but you'll probably see a jump in the number of buyers after the election is over. It is just a wait and see. It is also the fact that interest rates, they're predicted to come down, base rates, in the next couple of months potentially, because inflation is now at 2.3%. And it has been strongly indicated by the Bank of England that that is a strong possibility in July or August or both. No, June or August or both. Now, I've got a funny feeling maybe June is definitely going to be a quarter point reduction. And the only reason is because it's a feel good factor potentially, maybe influenced by the election that's potentially coming up, to get the right people have influenced the Bank of England into power, into their party into power. But who knows? Let's see if that actually happens. When most of the money market is actually predicting the fact that the base rates will not reduce prior to the election, I have a sneaking suspicion they will. And we'll see if that is the case. This resilience overall, then, just to finalise this, underscores the British and the Fife property market, and right across the whole of the UK, robustness, reassuring buyers and also sellers that political events, while temporary, influential, do not drastically alter long-term market dynamics. Thus, Fife homeowners, landlords, buyers can confidently approach the up and coming election, knowing that any temporary disruptions will likely be swiftly relieved. So, should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and message me direct on the post. And until next time, guys, I am Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV. Bye bye for now.